If you are trying to pull your kids away from screens without triggering a full-blown household uprising, I have something that actually works in my house. My son and I are obsessed with the games from Taco Cat Games. We especially love their very popular Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. I am not kidding when I say every family we've given it to comes back saying the same thing. This game is chaos in the best possible way. It's ridiculously easy to learn, the rounds are super fast, and within about 10 minutes, your living room turns into a laugh until you cannot breathe, slap the table competition. And for ADHD brains, it's perfect. Quick feedback, constant engagement, lots of movement, all the things that keep kids actually interested, which is exactly why I love it for our Screens campaign. Games like this create those tiny moments of connection that reset everyone's brain after a long day of school, homework, and way too much dang screen time. So if you're looking for a 10-minute family reset that actually works, check them out at tacocatgames.com or check them out in the show notes, because sometimes the best way to compete with screens is with doing something even more fun. Are you tired of being the screen police? The constant negotiation, nagging, and fights over screen time? Girl, it's so exhausting. Two frustrated ADHD parents who experienced the problem firsthand have created a solution that actually works. Screen Coach is a time management app that rewards good habits. Kids can earn their screen time by doing activities set by you, chores, homework, even brushing their teeth. You can allocate times for kids to access certain apps only or block all apps. Once it's set up, you can relax. There's no sneaky workarounds. Endorsed by psychologists, Screen Coach enforces those routines that help ADHD kids and parents thrive. They offer a free 30-day trial, and because you're part of the Chaos Fan, you can even get a 5% discount after the trial. You can head to myscreencoach.com/chaos or click the link in the description and start building healthy habits for life. You know the moment. Your kid is melting down in public, your nervous system is shot, and you hand them a screen just to survive it. Instant calm. But what if that calm isn't actually regulation? And we're accidentally skipping the part where our kids learn how to handle big emotions. Yeah, that one hit me too. So today we're talking to Dr. Jenny Radesky, a developmental behavioral pediatrician and leading expert who's helped shape guidance with the American Academy of Pediatrics on how screens impact our kids' brains, behavior, and emotional development. And if you're raising a kid with ADHD where emotions already run louder, faster, bigger, this conversation matters. Because we're unpacking the question every overwhelmed parent is quietly asking. Are screens helping our kids regulate or replacing the skills they actually need? Grab your emotional support coffee and let's welcome Dr. Radesky to the mic. Welcome to Chaos and Caffeine, the ADHD parenting podcast where you do not need a degree to understand your kid. I'm Danielle, mom in the trenches who spent years obsessing over how to do this better, so you don't have to learn everything the hard way like I did. Each week, I bring on experts who actually make sense. And then if you want the real story, come hang out with me on Patreon where I break down how it all played out in my house. What worked, what flopped, and what I'm still side-eyeing. Thanks for being here. Dr. Radesky, welcome to Chaos and Caffeine.
Thank you. I love the name of your podcast. That really captures life.
When I named the podcast, I thought he was the chaos. I thought my son was the chaos and I was the caffeine. But over the last year, I realized I'm a lot of the chaos as well. So I'm learning.
No, our differences just, they run in families. And I find that, I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician. And when I'm diagnosing a kid with a developmental difference, sometimes parents are like, aha, oh, I see this in myself and I get this, and I think that that's a nice process of seeing how much our quirks and our strengths come through in our kids too. So
that is definitely my journey with ADHD. So you are the perfect guest for our Screens campaign And I would love for you to tell our listeners why that is in your own terms if you'd like to.
Yeah, so I'm both a developmental behavioral pediatrician and I run our division here at University of Michigan Medical School, but I'm also a media researcher and I got really interested in screens and media in my residency in Seattle. It was between 2007 and 2010. So this is when the iPhone just came out, the iPad was coming out. Seattle is full of early adopters. There's just tech everywhere. And I was like, this is fascinating. There's all these little mobile computers that now take up all this space in family life. And I built a research program first in Boston and now at University of Michigan, um, evaluating how are these screens designed? How are they interacting with our unique psychological characteristics? How are they supporting parenting? How are they disrupting parenting? And I've always really cared about the power of parent-child relationships. And when you have a mobile screen, it can occupy a lot of emotional spaces and social spaces that it couldn't before. So I've worked a lot on guidance for parents on how to help screens not feel as disruptive, how to understand the designs and the business models that want our time and attention all the time and therefore keep us on longer than we wanted. And then with those insights, I've tried to then translate the research into very practical guidance, one for parents and pediatricians through the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I've been working with them for 10 years on policy and guidance. And then two is for policymakers, because I think this needs to be a systems level solution. There need to be better digital ecosystems that respect our time and attention more and aren't trying to, grab our eyeballs for profit. And I'm happy to talk more about that because parents I talk to, we always blame ourselves, right? We always go straight to like, oh, why can't I, stop scrolling, or why can't I get my kid to hand over the iPad? And it's so much more of a design issue for why it's so hard to feel control over screens in our life. So that's one message I have for parents. It's like, stop blaming yourself. There's a lot of power that we have to take control of this, but we also have to recognize it can't all be on our shoulders to solve this on a systems level.
You are the second person on our screens campaign that has mentioned that it's kind of not on the parents, and I love that. And I'll be really honest with you. I waited to say this till we were on air and recording. When I research my podcast guests, typically I find all the answers that I wanted to ask the questions to. And when I was researching you, I came up with more and more and more questions. So I am about to get a free coaching session
Let's
in.
go.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited. And one of the things that I heard you say is that the language in your terms and policies were kind of making parents feel guilty. Do you mind explaining that a little bit? I know you've pivoted away from that
Yeah.
language now and understanding more.
So I was one of the lead authors of the American Academy of Pediatrics Screen Time Guidelines in 2016. And I did all these press interviews to talk about the guidelines. And I talked to so many parents and journalists, and they were all like, oh, these guidelines make me feel so guilty. And we were like, but we tried not to. Like we weren't using words like you should do this or parents have to do this. We wanted them to consider these different options when trying to make a healthy relationship with tech in their household. And so so I had two takeaways here. Is one is that if we are asking parents, set your screen time limits, find healthy content, watch together, and we're asking them to do all of these positive behaviors around technology. And yet the tech ecosystem is designed often to oppose those exact guidelines. That disconnect is going to make us feel guilty. I describe it as like, pushing that stone, that boulder up a hill where you're like, why can't I get on top of this? It's because we're swimming upstream. And the stream coming down at us is engagement-based design, infinite scroll, notifications, autoplay, things that grab our attention and hold on to it. It's algorithms that recommend content to our kids that we didn't ask for, but they've profiled what our kids team seems to like and seems to click on, and then offers them, hey, I predicted you were going to want this next. And I've heard from so many parents that that introduces content that doesn't align with their values or that they didn't want, being introduced to their kids.
Yeah.
But the kids can't resist because it's so, clickbaity. So that's what made me driven to work with policymakers. I even worked for the federal government last year to try to help clean up the digital ecosystem, make it safer and fairer for kids. But then the other part that I learned from that guilt is that, okay, then we need to talk about this in a way that parents feel less like they're being told what to do, but more that they are in the driver's seat. Because I believe in the inherent strength of parents and their insight into their kids. If they're given the time and opportunity and brain space to parent the way they want and raise their kids the way they want, they will. And if we just are like, you're doing this wrong, we're not going to bring that out of parents. So at our Center of Excellence on Social Media and Youth Mental Health, so this is run by the American Academy of Pediatrics, funded by SAMHSA through the federal government. We make evidence-based resources for families, and we are intentionally writing them in a way that harnesses the strengths you already have. So instead of saying, restrict your kids' screen time, we're saying, what are screens crowding out in your life? And what do you want to crowd back in? That puts you in the driver's seat. And I talk about this with families all the time in clinic. It's like, okay, you feel like screens are taking up your whole afternoon. Let's break it down. Like, what are you missing out on? If you're spending all that time on screens, what do you wish you were doing instead? And if kids and parents can say, I want to sleep longer, I want to get to sleep earlier, I want to walk the dog with my parents, I want to help cook. Most kids don't say they want to help cook, but they want to do something fun and connected with their parents, or the parents might have a goal like, I want to raise a reader. I want someone who loves, sitting on the couch and reading a book rather than playing a video game. And so if we can identify those goals and values that families naturally have, and we just put them into, we try to find some practical, small ways to put them into fruition, like that is a strengths-based approach that then, because you know what, if you're going to reduce your screen time, you're going to need to fill that space with something, right? So I want the families to decide what to fill in that space. So that's just one example of a more strengths-based approach. Another is saying, hey, guess what? We've all started to use media to calm down too much. Like it's so easy when you have this frictionless feed in front of you that has predicted what you might want to watch, and you want to check out. It's been a stressful day. You just want to scroll a bit and not have to think. Well, what happens when you are calming your emotions or soothing them or distracting from them through scrolling? You are setting up a little barrier between you and the other people around you who might need a little calming. You are not exercising calming from within. You're getting calming from without, from externally. And so you're not practicing these, we have lots of gifts of how to calm down on our own. That might be through moving our bodies or engaging with music or song, and or laughing with our kids. So that's another strengths-based approach, is to say, okay, check in with yourself. How much are you and your kids using media to calm down and de-stress? Can you find offline or other ways to meet that same goal? And a lot of parents, they have ideas. They just are like, life's so busy. I needed to put these ideas at the forefront and prioritize them. And I think that, I've seen it in my clinic that families can put it into action if they choose one goal and really try to carve out space for it.
That's a whole podcast episode right there. But I would love to share something really cool that happened in my family, maybe by divine intervention. Maybe we needed it. My kiddo is 11 today and very hyperactive.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Very hyperactive. So if I jump in his screen time and say, hey, let's go to the park or play basketball or whatever, I am very privileged to get him off of the screen. So a couple of weekends ago, we took one of our friends to the park, and this kid was like, I want to go home and play video games. And my son recognized our friend cannot enjoy the park because he wants to go home to his devices. And so I tried to do it in a non-judgy way,
Hmm.
like that's his prerogative. But if you don't want to be like that, let's work on that. And
Hmm.
so I am so lucky that it happened that way for us so that he could get that self-awareness and recognition. And I am so excited.
So, yeah, and how do we build that in kids? Because at 11, you really can start to build some self-reflection. Like, what are my automatic responses to things? Why am I craving, those video games? And that it grows and grows through your 20s and your adult life. But the middle school years are when you can start to get kids to reflect like that. Now, it is a little later in kids who might have executive functioning difficulties, autism, ADHD. But I want to point out that you've probably talked with him about the importance of balance and how we've got to love being outdoors in nature just as much as we love being on that video game, and that we can love things that are low stimulation but have other sources of pleasure,
Yeah,
like the outdoors or moving your body. And that, we it's important to find things that you enjoy doing that don't just focus on this, very engineered pleasure, which video games are engineered to have just the right amount of reinforcement and rewards to be really pleasurable and to engage your mind in ways that feel good and give you that flow state. So I just want to praise you for probably talking to your kid before about the importance of that balance, because then when we get to see our kids take that we're that little voice in their head and they're like, hmm, why is he prioritizing video games over this beautiful day outdoors? We could be like,
yeah.
yes, yes, it worked, it worked. Um, or that you've it's also a sign that he probably truly loves being outdoors, and that when we help cultivate that in the early years and make it just a standard, like working with neurodivergent kids, I know that there are some lagging skills that don't come easily to them. And so the earlier we start and lay down and practice those skills, they become more automatic and something that kid can access more automatically rather than needing to work hard at it. And so that's just another, I guess, lesson for listeners is like, if you have younger kids, start those patterns early of like, we love these outdoors so much, or we're like, we love playing this sport, or we love playing music or listening to music. So you're giving kids some like lo-fi, chill experiences that they still find very gratifying.
I hope his dad is not listening to this, but I told him I would check him out of school early today on his birthday if he went on a bike ride or a hike with me. So
Mhm.
I'm bargaining. My son is a master negotiator, so we were haggling this morning.
Absolutely. And so, but this is an important point is that when you have a great negotiator, because many kids with ADHD or autism are a little bit rigid in their thinking.
Yeah,
And so they are very good at getting what they want and using different either verbal or behavioral approaches to try to get that,
yeah,
and not getting into a battle, but kind of harnessing that. Like, okay, I see that you're very motivated to do that thing. Then I'm going to harness that into, okay, so this is like me and my 12-year-old right now, where, and both of my kids are a little different. They don't want me talking about their specific labels or anything, publicly, but um, we always talk about, I don't know if you've seen The Fantastic Mr. Fox, that movie where Meryl Streep is this fox and she talks about like, we're just different. And she does this little hand motion by her arms. And like movie quotes are love language in my family. So we
Mm.
always like use something like that, like we're just different. In like a cool positive way. And so anyway, my 12-year-old, we don't have a smartphone yet. He lets us know that plenty of other kids have smartphones in his class. He's in seventh grade. And we know he started to be more motivated because he wants to be able to text with friends. And so, like, I'm trying to harness that motivation to be like, all right, then here are the responsible tech practices. That sounds a bit formal, but like this is how I know you can be responsible with tech. Like when you're done with video games, we're not arguing and hemming and hawing, and it's just done, and you can turn it off and you can go do something else. Like that tells me that you can disengage, that you love other things. He loves playing music, and that we're going to fill up a lot of the day with music or something else, rather than it being all focused on either I'm playing screens or I'm thinking about playing with screens. And uh, then also that we are trying to work on more mature communication practices through technology. So if he missed an assignment, he has to email his teacher. I'm not emailing his teacher. I want him to learn how to really express himself clearly through technology. So there's things like that like, I agree with you. When you have a very motivated kid who could be a bit of a stuck thinker, we need to meet them where they're at and like gently mold that towards say, okay, if you want that, we're going to do this instead.
Yeah.
And so I think, hopefully other parents who are listening to this are like, yes, I know that pattern, and trying to avoid just getting in the battle around technology because it's such a high stakes um, interest in so many kids that many of my patients have gotten into ongoing back and forth arguments about it.
Yeah.
And so setting some clear expectations early, um, and being really consistent about your limits, but also, giving access to the positive parts of technology. We do movie nights, we do, some video gaming on weekends. My son uses this music composition app on his school issued device that lets him play, do sheet music. Like there are positive parts of it that we can grant access to while also saying, but I'm not going to let you get the like gross violent video game. That's off limits because I just don't think that aligns with our families, the media we like to consume.
Yeah. I am so glad you used that example because I am the mean mom and my kid does not have social media, which he is totally not ready for. But that was one of my other questions that I wanted to ask you. Do you think the changes that tech companies are making right now is enough or even worth our time, or how is that playing out in 2026?
Yeah, this is such a great question, and it's really complicated. I think um, the trials that are going on right now in Los Angeles and California about social media product liability. So that means like this is a faulty product. It hasn't been designed with kids' safety needs in mind. Um, I think they've shed a lot of light on like, wow, this could have been designed much safer years ago. I just want to tell, one example of a study. In 2021, a group in the UK did a study of the main social media platforms. They pretended that they were teens. They created accounts based on real teens that they had interviewed and figured out all their interests. And then they created what's called an avatar account, where they, started a TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram account based on all the same interests of that teenage boy or girl for a couple different teens. And they found that this was before a lot of the tech regulations went into effect in the UK. They found that within days, teens were messaged by marketers for things like marijuana, pornography. They got eating disorder content. They got self-harm content. Their feeds were such a cesspool compared to what I think as adults we might see in our feeds. I don't like, in the past when I've used Instagram, I follow golden retrievers and like, comedians. Like there's so I think it's a wake-up call to understand like it's really hard to track what your kid is seeing in a feed. It's a computer making the decisions of what they're going to see next. And if they get profiled in a unique way of like, ooh, this kid seems to linger longer or click on anything with a female body on it, I'm going to keep sending him more and more and more of those. Like as a parent, I'm like, no, thanks. No, that's not the sort of product I'm interested in. I'm interested in a product that lets my kid chat and laugh and share, music or culture or sports or other stuff with their friends. But I don't need the rest of the world kind of coming in and targeting my kid on a feed.
Yeah.
So it really brings to light the importance of design features. Like if we could have social media that just was about messaging and connection with just your group of friends and some access to the cool stuff that is online, inspirational accounts or um, pop music or sports, that would kind of feel like a developmentally aligned experience for a lot of our kids. But right now, it's not that aligned. And you asked that question about like, okay, what about all the product adjustments that tech companies have been making to have teen accounts, to have family centers, to have all these different ways that they've kind of, I call it retrofitting their product to be like, oh, we'll make this safer for kids. The hard thing is that several third-party evaluations, for example, of the Instagram teen accounts, have found that they still let a lot of harmful content through, and they still nudge users to come back and re-engage. And so it's really important that we have some accountability, that like a company can just say, hey, we made it safer. I really appreciate the fact that these third parties and academics have gone in to say, okay, I'm going to make a teen account and I'm going to call you on that to see like, is this actually safer? So that's been very frustrating, seeing the fact that these adjustments have not really solved the problem. The second thing that's come out in these court cases is that the adjustments that they tried to make, like, here's your screen time output, like, so you can see how much time you're spending on our social media site. There's not great adoption. It's not actually moving the needle on how much time kids spend on their platform. So it looks like it's more of a PR move of a way of saying like, look, we care about kids, without actually changing the core parts of social media that make the most money and introduce the most risk are the algorithm that is trained based on engagement to keep you on longer,
Yeah.
and the profiling. And then all the little nudges that are like, come back, your friends are here, So if we could have a safer product that didn't have that engagement-based algorithm, that the data-based profiling and all of the nudges to re-engage, teens would have a much healthier relationship with social media. So anyway, back to the question of like, for our kids, should we be embracing these products that have not shown to really, prove their safety? I often encourage families to hold off, and like if they do want to definitely not before 13. There's plenty of evidence that under 13, kids who start social media accounts early by fabricating their age have worse outcomes. They're contacted by predators more, they have worse body image concerns, and they have more problematic compulsive media use habits. So if you have a kid who's like a sixth grader and they're like, but everybody's on TikTok, I need to be, I would say, no, there's an age limit for a reason. If we want to look at some funny videos together sometimes, like if you as a parent have a social media account, you can show some videos to your kids. But I otherwise say, stick with texting and messaging, and then find other ways, whether it's through sports or theater or something else in your community where they can get that silly, time to engage with their friends. Now, once you turn 13, I think it's got to be a conversation between you and your kid. Are they ready? My 12-year-old is such an attention seeker. Like he would just go crazy for those likes. He would be so obsessed with how many followers he could get. It's like those aspects of quantifying your popularity. Oh, like that would be a bad mix for his his personality. So that's one thing, is like, okay, what about this platform would be a bad mix for my kid? Which of these platforms, like if you just choose one at a time and say, okay, if all of your friends are on Snap or all of your friends are on, another one, let's do a trial run. Let's do one. I'll have a supervisory account that we'll do together, and we're going to check in every week about how it's going. And we're going to have some time limits, because you know what? You can scroll on one of those things for hours and never never see all the content in the world. So, and then, there's lots of conversation, like, should we delay till 16? Where countries across the world are considering that. Some states have considered an age of 16 as a minimum age. It's not like things magically get better at 16. There's plenty of 16-year-olds who would struggle with social media. There's plenty of adults who struggle with social media. Yeah. So, and there's a little bit of evidence that like kids who there's a recent study out of Australia that like 14 and 15-year-olds who use zero social media have slightly lower well-being than kids who use a moderate or smaller amount of social media. So I think there's why might that be? It might just be that it's a source of social connection. And I think what those studies have not done is tease out messaging apps from feed-based apps. And so like one takeaway for parents would be, all right, we're going to start with more messaging-based apps, because that's actually social connection, right? That's your group. You still got to monitor the group chats and see which ones are getting out of control and talk to your kids about it. But don't move over to the feed-based apps until you've seen some maturity and some self-control. And if you have a kid who already is struggling with like, I can't put this video game console down, or I'm going to sneak it at night, I'll sneak the iPad, that's a sign that you should probably delay social media a bit later. Your kid is going to be mad at you. And you could say, you know what, you still have contact with your friends through texting and messaging, and I'm going to do my best to find other ways where you can hang with them and still feel like you're part of the crowd that is playing a pickup basketball game or playing Dungeons and Dragons together. Like whatever your nerd group is, like I will help you find your people.
Can we talk about the quiet gaps screens have created? Our kids can build entire digital worlds, but struggle to read the room in the real one. And no, this isn't about demonizing screens. They're not evil, but they are passive. Social skills, executive functioning, those are not passive. They're built, practiced, strengthened. That's why I love social thinking, because this isn't just be nice advice. It teaches kids how social communication actually works, how to notice what others are thinking, manage impulses, join conversations appropriately, and respond instead of react. And here's the part parents don't always realize. It also builds executive functioning, organization, flexible thinking, time management, problem solving. These are classroom survival skills, friendship skills, life skills. If screens have taken some of those practice reps, we can build them back intentionally. Check out social thinking in the show notes, and let's raise kids who can navigate people and not just platforms. One thing I've learned about raising a kiddo with ADHD is that the goal isn't just turning screens off. The real magic is finding something that pulls their brain in just as fast. That's what I love about op games. In our house, pulling out a quick game like Flip 7, Tapple, or Blank Slate turns into one of those moments where everyone unexpectedly gathers around the table and stays there. And Cork is pure chaos in the best possible way from the very first roll of the dice. If your family likes a little more strategy mixed in, Hummingbirds is beautiful and engaging too. The best part, most of these games take under 10 minutes to learn, which makes them perfect for a quick family reset when everyone needs a break from screens. Because sometimes the easiest way to step away from screens is giving everyone something way more fun to gather around. You can check them out at theop.games or click the link in the show notes, and you can thank me later. I love that you have said that I can use his drive for these devices or apps in a way to teach him and kind of bargain my needs and wishes with his wants and wishes.
Hmm.
And it's weird because the one that my kid keeps asking for is Snapchat, and Snapchat was designed to have whatever you say disappear once you read it. Hell no. I don't, no, sir, not over here. But he has gotten to where he has more phone numbers. More of his friends are getting texting and calling, but like that seems very scary for me.
And you know what? But talk about it and say, hey, as your mom, I want to monitor how you're doing. Now, I don't have to monitor you as closely as you did when you were 2, when I actually needed to make sure you weren't running out into the street, because I know you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't need to monitor you as much as you did when you were 7, when you sometimes would use naughty words just to get a laugh or something like that, But, now I respect the fact that you are growing up. You're a teenager, you're starting to be a teenager. You have your own thoughts and ideas, but I still need to monitor you to make sure, like, the main things in the teen years that as parents we should be watching for are how are your emotions doing? How are your friendships doing? And like, how's your relationship with your body doing, as well as school? Let's put school aside for a second. But in terms of these like emotional, like, do you like yourself? Are you dealing okay with these changes of puberty? It's all weird. I know you've got some zits. I know you've got some hair in new places, and it's all weird, right? So, but you know what? If it's mentionable, it's manageable. I love that from Mr. Rogers, where he was like, if we can mention it, we can talk about it, and I'm here for you, right? The one reason that the biggest reason that kids go to AI chatbots to ask sensitive questions is if they don't feel like there's a human adult that they could ask that question of. And so a big takeaway for parents is like, make that space for like, we could talk about stuff. I'm here for you. So if you say, hey, your social relationships, like me making sure you're not being bullied, no one's like sexting you or sending you weird stuff. Um, that's important to me. And when a message disappears, it takes that away from me. I can't do that. So that's one reason that the design features of this platform are not aligning with kind of our needs right now. And that's a much more respectful conversation with kids to let them really understand, here's how I want to watch out for you. But here's how I also want to respect your privacy. Um, Instead of just saying hard no, that's addictive. Like if you just give them, I certainly know when I give just a hard no with no explanation to my rigid thinker kids, it's like that's not going to work. No way. I need to like spell it out. What
Yeah.
am I thinking? And what's the reason behind my decision making? Now they may push back and be like, hey, mom, like, so had this conversation with my 16-year-old about Instagram. He wanted to possibly make an account because of his school newspaper, which posts has an official Instagram account. And so we talked about what the features of it that were so hard to put down and how the algorithmic feed, can send you stuff. We've talked about the manosphere because he got really into gym stuff. And he said as soon as he looked up one gym video, he got a whole bunch of self-optimizing, here's how to be a man videos. And I was like, it's like the algorithm knew his little, teenage male insecurities and was
Yeah.
like, I have exactly what you'll click on. So we've talked about that and like, staying away from stuff that's trending usually isn't the good stuff. It's just popular and grabs attention and things like that. But I said, like, why do you need it? If the school already has one, can't you just, contribute to creating he likes creating funny interview videos for his, journalism class and his school newspaper. And why can't you just work on creating that video, but it gets uploaded to their account? And like that, so that kind of resolved it. We kind of figured out what's the drive behind why my kid wants this product. And is there another way we could meet it? But I also said, hey, if that approach doesn't work, I'm open to reconsidering, but we would need to just have some boundaries around any app that has an algorithmic feed.
Noted. I can definitely discuss it with him in a way so that he will hopefully understand where I'm coming from.
But I also want to make room for this is a very parent to parent individual decision, right? So when I'm telling stories about my own kids, it's really just to illustrate how I approach this sort of problem solving. It's not to say, oh, there's one perfect way to parent around this, because I don't want parents who are like, you know what? I love social media. My kid uses it, my teenager uses it, and it's actually just pretty funny and it's not a problem. And it's pretty, they can disengage from it. Uh, but I also want to give some parents permission to say, you know what, that's never going to be a good mix for my kid. They have had an eating disorder, or they've had a more body uncertainties, or they just have, more of this compulsive personality. I'm okay with you setting your firm limits as long as you explain them and you give kids alternate activities that suit that same drive to connect with their friends or to be. Another thing kids like about social media is they learn about the wider world. So how else can you great, so read some news articles instead of getting your news on social media. We get a paper newspaper every Sunday still, because we want to role model to our kids, like, you don't just always grab little sound bites online. You also need to sometimes sit down and read a whole article. So there's, as long as you can, and I think that parents of neurodivergent kids are good at thinking, like, what's the function behind this behavior? What is driving this, new thing that I'm seeing? And then trying to find a replacement activity or alternate strategy to meet that same need.
Yeah. Ooh, it is good. So I will talk your head off all day, but I need to do a hard ADHD pivot because I heard something that you said, and I think I'm confused about something, and I would love for you to clear it up for me. I'm not confused about this part where you said in an interview that if our children are melting down in the middle of Target or during a very important phone call and we hand them a screen, that is kind of interfering with the process of them learning to manage that emotion. That part I do understand. I think where I'm confused is, and probably need a lot of help, is that I've been told, and I can kind of see that my kid is self-regulating with these devices. Where am I confused?
So when you say they're self-regulating with the device, like they are, the child is seeking out screens to have like a chill moment or to,
Yes.
and that
Like, for
they,
instance, right after school.
yeah, yeah. So they're recognizing that it is just like we do as adults. Like, this is an activity that lets my brain not have to focus or do as much work. It gives me a little brain break. I see this as a really common pattern in my patients after school. Kids who are neurodivergent have done so much work. Like, their tank is empty because they often need to exert more of their executive functioning. They might need to work harder to process what's going on around them or to self-regulate, to not overreact to things. So when they get home, I often hear parents say, like, we need to load on the snacks. We need to load on the songs or the body movement, get them running outside, or we need to have a chill hour of Minecraft or something else where it's just they get their favorite episodes of something, and then it's like their little de-stress, moment. So I think the difference is when it is like this planned time of, wow, that was a lot of work, and now we're going to have some me time to just get a brain break, and then we'll go back to something else. When it is this intentional time, I think it's different than when it is a in the moment decision to calm a stressed emotion or a big emotion, with a screen. And there's something developmental here too. Like when we have a tantruming toddler or 3-year-olds, and in the moment, unplanned, just reactive, kind of give a device to calm them down. I do think it's different than saying like, okay, here's your screen time. It's your like, way to unwind after a busy day, which we all use media often with that function.
Yeah.
But then having it be this kind of intentional, like, here's the time and here's where it ends. And then here are the other things we're going to do, whether it's to get a good night's sleep or to get our homework done. Now, what is different in terms of the kids' like brain processes about that intentional time? And it's also, hello, that's also like me time for the parent. I want to acknowledge like that if your kid is occupied for that hour so that you can cook or you can finish your workday or other things like that is added. That's like a resource to the parents as well. That to the whole family, it's part of a routine. It's part of like an expected set of, the structure of your afternoon, and I think it's easier to transition away from, especially when it's like an agreed upon amount of time or like 2 or 3 episodes or something that has an ending. When it comes to video games, often they don't have a clear ending point. And so I recommend using parental controls like, the Switch or Xbox. They have a parental control app where you can set the amount of time, and then you can set even that the software shuts down after that amount of time to help with the transition. It gives the kids like little warnings. Now, if it were, we are having an argument and we're all stressed out with each other, we're all like in the red zone, we just received some really bad news and everyone's upset at something, or something unexpected and negative just happened. So if you turned to media in that moment, that is when you're kind of missing like a lot of, okay, how do we handle this? Like, all right, what are we doing? Let me take 5 breaths. What's happening? Let's think about the different solutions. Let's give each other a hug to like get through. This is stressful. Let's talk out loud about what's going on and how we can handle it. Those sorts of moments, let's say you have a 7 or 8-year-old with more language abilities, like that's such a powerful learning moment for that kid to see this is stressful. My parent's going to help me understand what's going on, and they're going to help me understand how to manage it. Compared to, in early childhood, kids don't have those language abilities to really reason about what's going on. And so often they may just need more of a hug or a sensory distraction or a song or something else like that. One of the webinars I recently did, I really loved what the host said, who said, it's not just about this one time, I distracted my kid in the middle of a tantrum. It's the pattern. It's this is just how we handle emotions in our family, that this is the main thing. When a big feeling comes up, we just want to extinguish it and distract from it rather than, and I get it, like you're in the middle of Target and that big feeling comes up, like, oh, let's just get it done. Here, take this, let's move, right? So like that's where I don't want parents feeling guilty about those occasional moments. And many parents tell me in my studies, parents will be like, yeah, we really try to make it very clear. Hey, kid, this is for the long car rides. This is for doctor's office visits. This is for those kind of moments where it is a very helpful distractor in a stressful moment, but we're going to be intentional about how we use it. So the overarching pattern of media being this way that you handle your negative emotions, to me, is a sense of not judgment but of like, okay, what can we do to help this family with distress tolerance, of like handling how that feels. Sometimes it's trauma that leads to decreased distress tolerance, and you feel so flooded with emotion and with your cortisol in your body when something stressful happens that like you're like, I can't calm down enough to breathe. I can't calm down enough to talk to my kids. So I'm going to need 5 minutes of, Daniel Tiger telling my kid how to breathe while I, get it together because I'm having a lot of emotions right now, or I call a friend, or I, um, do something else to try to reset. And then, uh, and then another thing that like we've noticed is that especially in early childhood, those times when your kids are acting out, as a parent, you feel like I'm terrible at this. What have I done wrong? Like they don't have the sense of self-efficacy, like I can handle this. So that's when a therapist is helpful. I love therapists. I think they're magical. I think they break things down for us as parents. And I've had plenty of therapists for my kids or myself where they break things down for you and are like, hey, how about you try it this way instead? Or try these words instead of these words. And accepting that help from a good therapist and just like shifting your response to your kid a little bit really can give you more self-efficacy around, okay, when I did that, that actually worked to manage that behavior. And I don't need the screen anymore because now I have a different set of tools. And I'm just going to save the screen for these like occasional moments where we have no other option.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that help clarify, or like what else would be helpful for parents to know about like when can that screen help just extinguish emotions?
No, I think two things that I probably had confused in there. One, my kid is using the screen not to distract himself from boredom or some other feeling. He is using it to come back online after a hard day. So I love that. I probably
Mm-hmm.
was confused there. And I think
Mm,
the other thing that you mentioned is the intention behind it.
hmm.
So I'm not handing him a screen saying, hey, go veg out. It's that he's using that time for 15, 20 minutes and then he comes back refreshed and feeling like he can tackle the rest of the day. So
Well, let's also talk about the content. Like, what is the kid doing during that little reset period? Because if it's what I usually find is parents tell me when it is kind of a chill, open-ended game like Minecraft, it does help with more of that reset
yeah,
because it's not my kid coming home and then playing a shooter game for an hour where like they're actually ramping up their nervous system and kind of being having aggression reinforced through a
yeah,
sense of like, oh, I got coins every time I killed someone, right? So there's it the content of the game that they play. I've heard parents say they prefer not to do something with lots of in-game purchases or in-game currency like Roblox because that amps up that kind of, consume, consume, consume um, uh, feel rather than the like, this is just kind of a cool, chill experience.
yeah,
Um, I've heard parents say, I'm not going to use YouTube because again, that is that like whatever is going to come up on the algorithm is going to be might be exciting or arousing. I'd rather use their favorite, streaming video. It's like their favorite Disney or their favorite Netflix or something else so that they are watching. Maybe it's their favorite show. Like my kids rewatch the same Avatar, The Last Airbender, or some of these shows that are old favorites because they give them this little comfort zone or now my teenagers, honestly, they watch The Office or they watch The Simpsons or something that is a little more snarky, but still is that comfort zone of a media experience. And what I like about those episodes too is that there's a storyline, there's some humor, especially things like The Simpsons. My husband can connect to what they're watching. It allows again, to go back to the fact that in my family we use movie quotes or TV quotes all the time. If there's a way that it actually serves another purpose, like connecting to other people in your family, that's even better.
yeah,
Um, but I think uh, I like to tell parents, do your own experiments of what media content riles your child up the most versus helps them kind of cool down. And then you as a parent can be in control of being like, this is Minecraft time. This is not Grand Theft Auto time. And that's okay to have those clear rules and about what they can download or what sort of games they can play.
Yeah. Ugh, Dr. Radesky, this is so good. I would no lie talk to you all day, but I know you have so much more important stuff to do. Do you want to tell people how they can learn more about your website? And I think you have a book coming out.
Yeah, I do. So we have a book coming out in October. It's called Connecting, Raising Your Kid in a Digital World. It's me and Dr. Megan Moreno, who's an adolescent doc, and I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician. So we cover lots of territory from little kids to teens, neurodivergent to typically developing, and it got a lot of practical strategies. So that'll be out in October. And then a free resource to everyone is aap.org/social media. So that is the website for the American Academy of Pediatrics Center of Excellence on social media and youth mental health. We have tons of kind of handouts, tip sheets, videos, different things that help you, like number one, start some conversations with your kids about media that are not cringy, we hope, that are ways to get your kids to open up and really make regular conversations about this. Practical ways to set limits. We have an early childhood toolkit. We have a calming toolkit. We have different things that we've heard from parents that they feel like they really need to have better balance. And that I encourage people you can sign up for our newsletter or follow the center or myself on LinkedIn is kind of where we usually post about any new resources that come out. But I really appreciate your attention to, differently abled and differently developing kids, because I think often all the research on this topic, they exclude kids with different diagnoses. And yet in my clinical practice, I find that parents, raising kids with different, conditions or developmental differences, they have so many creative ideas of how to navigate the path towards helping their kids functioning and sense of self and everything. And so, with difficulties in impulse control or executive functioning or social skills, our kids are more likely to get into trouble with media. And that's why I really encourage parents to be very hands-on and talk about it as much as possible. And also give yourself grace about the fact that, like, we're going to use this as a tool intentionally, and then we're going to fill the rest of their days with other stuff that will help them love, so that, they don't only see media as their main preferred activity.
Thank you. I usually ask one final question, but I think that was it
to
the show. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So here's what's probably sitting with you right now. Not shame, not guilt, but that quiet, uncomfortable awareness. Wait, have I been solving the moment, but skipping the skill? And listen, if you've handed your kid a screen during a meltdown, that's not failing. That's survival. But what Dr. Radesky gave us today is something way more powerful than perfection. It's awareness that those messy, inconvenient public, please don't look at me moments, they're not just chaos. They're practice. Practice for frustration. Practice for disappointment. Practice for learning I can feel this and get through it. And for our kiddos with ADHD, those reps matter even more. So maybe this week, it's not about ripping screens away or doing some dramatic parenting overhaul. Maybe it's just one pause. One moment where instead of handing over the device immediately, we sit in it for a second longer. Coach a little. Breathe a little. Let them feel just a little. Not perfectly, just intentionally. Because we're not raising kids who can only function when they're distracted. We're raising kids who can handle life when it gets loud. And it will get loud. If this episode made you think, feel, or question literally everything, check out Dr. Radesky's work in the show notes. But so much more importantly, I need you to send it to another parent who's in the trenches with us. If you want to hear how Dr. Radesky's episode played out in my real life, check us out over on Patreon. And you already know, if you want more real, science-backed, no BS ADHD parenting conversations like this one, you know where to find me. That's it for this week on Chaos and Caffeine. I'm Danielle, and I'll see you next week. If you're a parent in the neurodivergent world, you already know this. We read labels like it's our second job. We side-eye ingredients, we Google brands at midnight, and we're constantly looking for support options that feel intentional and not sketchy. That's one of the reasons so many families, including my own, trust Mary Ruth Organics. Their supplements come in easy-to-take liquid drops, which honestly matters when pills are a hard no. The flavors are kid-friendly, the formulas are vegan, Clean Label Project certified, and the company itself is a B Corp, which means they actually care about what goes into their products and how they operate. Mary Ruth's doesn't promise miracles, and neither do we. What they offer is thoughtfully made, high-quality supplements that fit into real family routines without added stress. If you're looking for a brand that prioritizes transparency, clean ingredients, and making supplements easier for kids and parents alike, Mary Ruth Organics is one worth checking out. Because supporting our kids starts with choosing products we actually feel good about giving them.